Good evening. This is CTV News for Wednesday, April 4th. I'm Rochelle Metzger. Thanks for joining us. The results are in after Tuesday's primary election. With 5 county school board seats up for grabs, 3 college students were among the top vote getters. 19-year-old student David Murray of Bowie, who netted over 55% of the vote, will go on to face Sabrina Epps for the District 1 seat. Edward Burrows, who is also a 19-year-old student, clinched over 65% of the votes for the District 8 seat. He will face runner-up Andre Nottingham. 18-year-old University of Maryland student Rahela Ahmed garnered nearly 1,000 more votes than her District 5 predecessor, Virginia Jacobs. And in District 4, Michael Watson will challenge Sandy Vaughns. And Carletta Fellows of Upper Marlboro is set to face Henry Armwood Jr. for the District 7 seat. Ben Cardin was named the winner of the Senate primary election with over 74% of the votes. His biggest opponent, C. Anthony Muse, walked away with just 18% of the vote. John Sarbanes, Roscoe Bartlett, and Donna Edwards will retain their posts in the House of Representatives. The general election will be held on Tuesday, November 6th. The life of the young Surratsville high school student who died suddenly while jogging on the school's track was celebrated today. Her friends and family gathered to share their memories of her during a funeral service at Mount Enon Baptist Church. And our Denise Douglas has the details from Clinton.
There you see it, the big, bright smile that so many friends say is just one of the things that they'll remember about Takaya Reyes-Son.
She just was an amazing person.
If it wasn't her smile, it was her presence that lit up the room. Adrian Hagan says Takaya was the kind of classmate who immediately touches you. He sat next to her in cooking class.
All she did was smile and laugh. He was a real good person, heartwarming, caring, outgoing person.
Hagan and others came to say goodbye to the 17-year-old. Here you see her dancing on home video that played inside of the church before the funeral service. The honor student, who loved to exercise and eat healthy, collapsed and died while jogging on the track at Surratsville High School last week. Tommy Broadwater still can't believe it.
I was at a track meet in Suitland, and it hurt me so bad I wasn't able to run at the track meet. It was devastated.
He remembers how she always showed concern for him. She also cared for special education students at the school, volunteering with them for the past 3 years.
She worked one-on-one with them, anything that they needed, pushing the chair, assisting them in the classroom setting.
She had been helping them prepare for an athletic competition similar to Special Olympics.
I just picture her walking around with that clipboard. You belong here, you belong there, and yeah.
It's hard, special education teacher Shalita Fair says, to think that Takaya won't be there when the students hit the field, but her love and spirit won't be forgotten.
That's how I'm going to remember her. She was an angel.
Takaya's family did not want to talk with us on camera. One of the ushers told us that they are very heartbroken. As you can well imagine, so far they have not said what caused her sudden death. I'm Denise Douglas, CTV News.
Takaya will be buried at Resurrection Cemetery in Clinton. Well, tonight we continue our special education series with a look at neighbor Montgomery County. Maryland's largest school district has received national recognition for bridging achievement gaps between white and minority students. We profile those reform efforts in this edition of Children Come First. When you think urban school systems, you may not think Montgomery County, but Maryland's largest public school district is as diverse as it's ever been, morphing from a majority white to a mostly minority system in the last decade. Today, more than 60% of MCPS students are minorities, and overall enrollment is surging. While Montgomery is viewed as a mostly white affluent suburb, it has a growing Hispanic and non-English speaking population and an increasing number of low-income families.
What grade are you in?
New Superintendent Joshua Starr is tasked with making a top-notch school system even better. MCPS has become a model for the country, consistently topping national school rankings.
You know, the road of school reform is paved with a whole bunch of structural changes that don't get to the core of what happens between the teacher and the child and good content. So that's the most important lesson that I took, is just focus on making sure you have great teachers, they're supported, and they have good curriculum, and they have time to learn it, and good things will happen for kids.
If the superintendent's pay is an indication of expectation, his $250,000 a year means officials have high hopes for Starr, and he has big shoes to fill, replacing longtime Chief Jerry Wiest, who is credited with raising academic standards and narrowing achievement gaps, while racking up numerous state and national awards and nearly doubling the education budget, which now stands at more than $2 billion.
For anyone who knows a little bit about Montgomery County, they spend more money on their schools and their kids than pretty much anybody in the country.
Wiest introduced the 7 Keys to College Readiness program, which included increasing academic rigor, smaller classrooms, and incorporating different teaching methods. Dr. Frank Stetson served as Chief School Performance Officer.
We worked very hard on having good, logical, linear processes that take you from point A to point B to point C, and have allowed us to, instead of speculating about what the right thing is to do, having consistency in the way we do business. And that's been on the educational side as well as the operational side.
Wiest also divided the county into a high-performing, more affluent green zone and a high-needs red zone, targeting schools with high numbers of low-income and minority students.
We added staff development teachers to each school. And I think that was very, very important, because that could allow us to have somebody in a building whose job is to work with staff, if we're talking about equity and excellence, to really develop skills in those particular areas, as well as data management and curriculum implementation.
More focus was placed on early education, expanding pre-kindergarten programs for the neediest students. As a result, in 2010, more than 90% of kindergartners met or exceeded reading targets, narrowing the achievement gap by race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. But Wiest and the success of his reforms have their critics.
I think the bar is lower compared to the students who are running a foot race in my neighborhood that just laps these kids.
Joe Hawkins of the Parents Coalition, a citizen watchdog group, challenges these claims. He says the gaps haven't narrowed.
If you look at SAT scores, the gap between the gross score mean for white graduating seniors in Montgomery County versus black graduates is about 364 points. So that gap has not been closed or narrowed. There's a lot of attention paid to advanced placement outcomes. The percent of white students who take one of those exams and score 3 or higher is about 2/3. For African Americans, it's about 28%. So they haven't closed the gap on that front as well.
Hawkins says his 2 grown children received a solid education in the district. He also says while minority kids in Montgomery are outscoring their counterparts elsewhere, many are still struggling to keep up in the classroom.
Frequently, what people in Montgomery County will do is they will say, our black kids are scoring better than black kids in New York City or Chicago. Okay, fine, whatever. That's what they do, that's what they do. But our black kids don't live in those places. They live here, and they're competing against the kids in our county. That's the measure that I'm interested in.
A former employee, Hawkins worked in the district's accountability office and believes the system's progress is overrated. He says results can be deceiving because performance reporting is often designed to show positive trends.
The school system and individuals in schools can't settle and just say, oh, I got them in an AP course. They weren't taking an AP course before, so now they're in an advanced placement course. Okay, I got them to take the exam and they got a 1 or a 2. Well, that's better than it was before. And I'm saying, yeah, that may be better than it was before, but that's not the goal. The goal is for them to score 5 or 4s.
A 2011 annual report shows that by Montgomery's own academic standards, minority students are still coming up short. With blacks meeting only 3 of 19 key performance targets, Latino students 7, their white counterparts 16.
The outcome is what people should be patting themselves on the back for. If students are still scoring ones and twos, then they shouldn't be celebrating.
You know, we don't buy programs off the shelf and say everybody do it. It's really about the practices that teachers are using, the practices that principals are using, assistant principals are using to make sure that the teachers are supported. And it's about teachers continuously learning and getting better at what they're doing. And if you have really good curriculum, which Montgomery County has, and you have support systems in place for teachers, which Montgomery County has, then you'll continue to see good things.
Starr will have to walk a much leaner line than the plush path enjoyed by his predecessor. While the Wiest administration saw an era of rising revenues, an economic downturn has meant more than $400 million in budget reductions over the last several years.
We're concerned about having to raise class size too high at those levels. And so that is an area that could be threatened in terms of what the class sizes are going to be.
The district has failed to meet state-mandated maintenance of effort or per-student funding 3 years in a row.
The additional staff who are not necessarily classroom teachers, such as staff development teachers, is that we are expecting some cutbacks in that area. That concerns me as one of those foundational components. We're not eliminating them, but we're going to have to look at how we're using them differently.
The system is growing at a record rate, seeing an increase of nearly 9,000 students over the last 5 years. But reductions in county funding could make it more difficult for the district to keep up with rising enrollment, aging facilities, and technology needs.
One thing that we need to do is take a hard look at where we can have some efficiencies. Are there some things we're doing that we may not be getting the greatest return on our investment? Are there some things that we should be doing more of? If we focus on making sure that people are learning from each other, we're going to get a lot of bang for our buck in that way. We're not going to be able to purchase a lot. So we have to really figure out what do we already know and how can we apply it in some new and different ways.
Rochelle Metzger, CTV News. Montgomery is the first district in the region to be selected as a finalist for the Broad Prize for Urban Education. The country's biggest award for metropolitan schools recognizes large districts that have raised student performance while narrowing the achievement gap. Tomorrow we'll continue with an in-depth look at one struggling school that is overcoming great odds to achieve success in the classroom. And this is CTV News. I'm Rochelle Metzger.